Happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary. Pour a cheerful toast and fill it, happy anniversary. But be careful you don't spill it, happy anniversary. Oh, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. Thank you, Fred Flintstone. He is right. That was this is our 1 year anniversary of Broad Street Hustle. I think we referenced it last week. We're on episode 55, but it is the 1 year anniversary since we have done multiple shows a couple weeks. So yes, we are at our 1 year. Who would have thought it? Who would have thought it? And 1 year later, what are we talking about? The Sixers losing in the second round. So some things have never changed. Like I said, episode 55 of Broad Street Hustle. We're going to get into the Sixers Game 7 debacle. And then where do they go from here? What's their roster look like? Who's their coach? I'm sure we're going to have a lot of debate around that. And then we're going to go into the Preakness. So Pimlico, we're going to cover the Black Eye Susan, which is the Philly version, on the Friday prior, so tomorrow. And then the Preakness, the late pick for leading into the Preakness, we're going to cover as well. Let's go around the horn. I have my usual co-host, Jason Sayeda. Jason, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, Tom. What's going on?
Happy anniversary. I got Jimmy the Chalk. Do I say happy anniversary? Were you on our first Broad Street Hustle show?
I was, yeah.
He was, yeah.
I think I've been on more Broad Street Hustles than you, technically, even though you're the lead host.
Wow. Like they always said, look at the NBA. The great players don't play all 82.
No, Johnny Carson did like 10 shows a year for his last decade or something.
You know who plays all 82? Guys like
Tobias Harris.
Like Shake Middleton. Yeah, Tobias Harris. Exactly. So yeah, not an official co-host, I think, when we first launched it, but has now moved promoted to the co-host title, mainly before your production at the end of the show that we needed, and we didn't want to pay you any extra, so we had to just give you the co-host title.
I'll use it in negotiations down the line.
Happy anniversary. And then we got Christopher Michael Mika, who's been on, 80% of our shows.
He's probably been on more shows than you also.
Happy anniversary.
All right, let's get started. So we said in the start, the Sixers exit the second round for where are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times now. I know one of them they lost in the first round, but 6 in a row, not getting past the second round, I should say, and have only got past the second round one time since 1986 or something like that, right? Which is just insane. We're not going to go crazy into Game 7. We all saw it. They were dog poop, to say the least. Guys look like they just flat out quit. You got one of Harden's bad Harden games. Embiid was terrible. But I'm going to move it to Jason. Some quick thoughts, Game 7, and anything around Game 7 you want to share?
Sure. Well, I do have some stats on playoff performances that we could get to when we're done all our Sixers talk. So before we get to the Preakness, please throw it back to me for some stats. So, what are you going to say about Game 7? I mean, here's what I'll say about the whole series. Boston's strategy was clearly to not let Embiid beat them. All right? Said it on the last podcast. I said, let's hope that the Sixers can make an adjustment here because they clearly saw what Boston did in Game 6. By putting Robert Williams as kind of like a free safety back there. Horford would be all on Embiid, and Williams would still be patrolling the paint. My point is every game the Sixers won, it wasn't because Embiid had a great game. Like the games that they won was because Harden had a great game. Boston was not going to let Embiid beat them. My problem with that game in and of itself was, for the most part, Embiid is he's too indecisive. Like, why do they dump the ball into him? And then if he's going to try to score. Like, go. Don't wait for the double team and then try to beat the double team. If you're going to wait for the double team, pass out of the double team. But he's too slow and indecisive. If you watch Jokic play, he's just he's so quick with the ball. To just get the ball and either make his move or just quickly get it to somebody else who's open. Embiid just slows down the game too much. Now, I don't know if that's ever going to change. I don't know if the guy's still learning to play basketball, truly. He hasn't played basketball that much in his life. So, I don't know. But, I mean, that's all I'll say about Game 7. You know, they obviously Tatum scorched them, but I think it was more Boston's defense that won that game more than Tatum. You know, if the Sixers were to score with them, I mean, okay, Tatum had 51. Nobody else did much else for Boston other than Tatum. So it was more the defense that won that game. I guess we'll keep it at that and then come back for, go have the other guys comment on Game 7. How did you want to do it? Or did you
let them go because
Okay.
we're going to get into rosters and things like
Yeah.
that going forward.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
and then plus, you'll hog everything. There's not too much to say. So, Jimmy the Chalk, why don't you weigh in? You saw it in person, Game 6, I think.
No.
And then you didn't? No. So you didn't even go. No. And then you saw Game 7 on your television.
Yeah. I mean, what do you say for the series when nobody on the roster had, there was a 7-game series, nobody on that roster would have what you would call a good game for more than 3 games in any of the series. So it's hard to beat a team like Boston like that. I would say I think Embiid's Game 5 was a really good game, and Harden wasn't great that game. He was all right, and he didn't score a lot, but he did facilitate. But 4 and 5 were great, I thought, Embiid games, and of course Harden went for 40-something in Game 4. But Embiid on both ends. Like after Game 5, me, and I can be as negative as anybody. I'm thinking like maybe that's his signature game. Finally, he ran down, he was blocking guys and running back down and scoring. Okay, like this is the game he puts together. If they knock him out next time, go to the next round, and it didn't happen. And I mean, I did kind of have hope in Game 7. They were up 9 in the second quarter, not playing great, but playing better than Boston was. And then you go through a sequence where they're up 9, then Harden, airball, Embiid blocked, Horford, Maxey, turnover, Embiid, airball. So they went like 5 possessions in a row without a shot hitting the rim, either on turnovers or airballs. And, oh, by the way, the flagrant one, that ended up being a 4-point sequence for Boston. So, and then you blink an eye, and then Boston has the lead back. And, they were only down a few points at halftime, and they tied it very early in the third quarter. And after that, it was another sequence of turnovers, shots not even hitting the rim. And then Boston got hot, and that was it. And I can't say I saw the game playing out like that, but it's not shocking.
Yeah, Meeker, how about for you?
I thought they would lose. I did not think they would lose the way they lost. I saw a team in the third quarter, kind of halfway through it, when Tatum was starting to scorch them, just kind of give up. And, your MVP just wasn't your MVP. And I will say what Jason alluded to was the biggest problem was they didn't really have much of an offensive game plan other than trying to dump it into him. Now, I will say that, yes, Embiid deserved the MVP. But if that was Jokic, and that's the game plan that they tried to employ against a guy like Jokic, the game doesn't go the way it does. Because Embiid doesn't really know how to dish it back. He doesn't really know how to pass it out of the double team. He doesn't really know how to do some of those things. You say he doesn't, maybe he's just learning more basketball, but I mean, come on. I mean, the guy's been in the league long enough. He's an MVP to be able to recognize a double team and make that play. And a guy like Jokic, like you said, he doesn't. There's no. The decision making is so fast. With Embiid, he's just trying to figure it out, right? So your MVP wasn't the MVP, unfortunately. And like you said, Chalky, you were waiting for one of those games where either Brown or Tatum became, played well together and it was like the first time that in a game I saw in that series that they just dominated it. Yeah, it's kind of sad, that we can't get past the second round for how many years in a row now? What are we talking about? 4 years in a row? 5 years in a row?
6, not passing this. Well, 6 since they started this playoff run with these guys.
Meeker
And-
loves we. You like that word we, right? You use it.
Yeah,
with the
I'll
Eagles,
use it here.
the Phillies.
It's the royal we.
But they're missing something, and they keep, it's kind of like the whole thing with Iverson. Like they always tried to throw somebody in with Iverson that was going to make a difference, and Harden was this year's version of the guy that was going to make the difference, and I don't think that's working out, and I think there's going to be some changes there. I don't know that you can coach that up. I just don't think that they mesh. I mean, they have flashes during the regular season against teams maybe they're a lot better than, but when you're playing 7 games against a team that like Boston, these types of things come out, and that's what I saw. I mean, and they lost. I just didn't think they had any gas going into that second half. Like I was saying in the last podcast, their two best players. One, his conditioning has always been an issue, and the other is kind of old in Harden, and I don't think it's a good mix right now, and I think that they're going to have to make some big changes.
Yeah, so it's funny. I'm just looking back. I have the same copybook from the first show, so I'm looking back. And our first show agenda was what went wrong against the Heat? How do we fix it going forward? Who stays? Who goes? So it's like definitely like deja vu a year later.
You'll get it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and you guys know from my text, and I like to be over dramatic, so I'm going to be. Embiid needs to see the Wizard of Oz. He's the Tin Man. He has no heart. He was more interested in winning the MVP than winning in the playoffs. Look, I'm going to read you 2017, 2018. I'm going to read you some of the roster. Robert Covington, Joel Embiid, Ilya Sovic, J.J. Redick, Darius Saric, Ben Simmons, Stauskas. I don't remember his first name.
Nick.
And now you look at 2022-23. Who was it? Embiid, Maxey, Harris, Harden, and Tucker. So what's the one 6 years later? Who's the one common denominator on that roster and the one common denominator on this roster? It's Embiid. So to me, what I've learned is Embiid's not a number one to build your championship team around. And is it him or is it the center position in general? I mean, we've always talked about you need those swing forwards, swing guards is how you dominate in this league. Now, you can argue Denver's doing it, but Denver also has Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jones, a couple other much better players around him. But I mean, you watched him.
He's a different kind of center, though.
Yeah.
We've never seen a center that can pass like that ever.
Yeah,
Probably.
when he gets the ball at the top of the key or the 3-point line, I'm not like when B gets, I'm like, oh come on, like he's got to be deeper. Like Jokic, it's like, okay, you can go do what you're gonna do. Like,
but yeah, I just think he has no heart. He doesn't go underneath because one, he can't do it all game. He can't play that way like a center. I mean, the game's not really played that way, but he can't do it all game. Because of his condition, and two, Al Horford owns him because they're physical. Boston is a physical team when it comes. Marcus Smart at times was able to guard Embiid because he just got physical with him and was putting his body. Embiid doesn't want to be physical. He doesn't like the contact.
I think a big thing is his conditioning. Like, he's got to get in better shape. Like, my thing was, and I think I said it on the podcast, like, if they went to Denver and played Denver, he would have been tired halfway through the first quarter. They weren't going to beat Denver because he's too winded. And then the whole thing with Harden, I don't know if we could get sued for saying stuff like this, but like the rumor out there is like that the reason he didn't get along with Rivers was Rivers would be all over him for like, yo, you're partying and drinking and stuff the night before a game. Which
I mean, it's you could say rumor, but I mean, he was seen in Vegas 2 days before the series started. I mean,
I'll consult our attorney, but I'm pretty sure that was a national report from Ramona Shelburne, who is based out of L.A. and Doc Rivers coached out of L.A. for a number of years.
You mean he's not Dennis Rodman? He doesn't get better.
I don't know if
by
you made the
going
connection.
And partying.
Look, I mean, I was joking before, but I mean, his best game of the playoffs was after spending a couple days in Vegas smacking his friends around. But realistically, like at his age, and that's just been his lifestyle in the league. But he's 30. Gonna be 34, not 27. So
it was really 9 days off and smacking his friends around.
Would it not?
Yeah, no, yeah.
But would it not explain why some games he's scoring 40 points and hitting every shot, and other games he's hitting in front of the rim with every shot and scores 10 points?
What I hate about Harden
Sure.
is it's like the first possession. You know, we got a bad Harden night, so we're in for this all game. It's like immediately.
you know right away.
You know right away. It's
Right.
like, come on. So
I said it. I said you'll know in the first quarter of that game if they had a chance to win. If Harden's hitting in front of the rim with his shots, they're not going to win. And that's what happened.
So Tommy, you said, okay, the game is not played that way anymore. And okay, Jokic is kind of the exception to the rule, right, because of how skilled he is at the position. So, the problem is you have to have a center that does certain things, like Bam Adebayo. He's complementary to the rest of the team. Like your star is Jimmy Butler, but Adebayo does all the dirty work, right? You can win that way, if you have guys on the wing that can score like that. If you make a change, you can't. They're not going to do that. They can't do that. They're kind of stuck in this situation where this is the guy they have. He's the dominant force on the team, and you can put pieces around them, but they're not going to play a different game.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. Like, you're not like if somebody's going to on this podcast say that you need to trade him, you can't, because you're not going to get equal value back.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
But when I say not played that way, I'm talking about it's not played with centers backs to the basket and posting up and things like that. Your center has to,
the way they played Game 5 is like ideal. Boston made the adjustment to clog the lane so they couldn't get those pick and rolls
But
with
who had a
the
big
jumper
game
from
in
the
Game
elbow.
5? It was Maxey.
Embiid.
Maxey. I think Maxey was more the reason they won that game.
Maxey, but everybody played well in Game 5. So, he'd have to burden load. But that second half, Embiid was hitting those shots, and he was coming back on defense and swatting it. So he was in a rhythm. And
yeah, but my problem, even if you want to give Embiid credit in Game 5, it took somebody getting in his face and yelling at him that he's the best player in the league and you can't get stopped for him to be motivated. It's Game 5 of the second round. He needed somebody to yell at him.
Look. I'm in agreement with you that I don't see how this team wins a championship if you're relying on Embiid to be your alpha dog that kind of gets everybody together.
Right.
He can be your best player, but your alpha dog can't be PJ Tucker either, because he can get people going, but he's not going to look. And I got nothing bad to say about PJ Tucker Game 7, because they were doing well, and then he went to the bench, and then stuff started falling apart. Right. But you need somebody in between that can hit shots, take the ball on offense, and do something that's also going to be the alpha. And I don't know that Embiid's going to want that. And if he's kind of proven that it can't be him. I guess if Jimmy Butler were still here, he would defer to him. But how many guys can we get that's possible to get to bring in? There's probably nobody that he would be willing to defer to.
Yeah, a guy like Dame or something like that probably can be.
Maybe, but
I got. If we're gonna start talking about
because I'm gonna go into coach first. So
okay.
So let's move on. Game 7, they were a disaster. They stink. All right, coach. So I'll go around the horn here. Who do you want as the head coach? Not the happening. Who do you want as the head coach? Jason, who do you want as the head coach? Nick Nurse. Give us. You have any particular reason?
Nick Nurse took Toronto to a championship with. He had Kawhi Leonard, of course, but what else did they really have on that roster? He beat a Sixers team that was certainly more talented than them. He devised a defense against Embiid, which he used Marc Gasol to kind of nullify him. So getting him would kind of take somebody else away who knows how to defend Embiid and might know how to make Embiid better. If he could defend Embiid, maybe he could say, well, if you start doing this stuff, then we can't defend you. You know what I mean? So for me, it's Nick Nurse.
How about you, Meeker?
Who do I want as the Sixers coach is not going to happen, and it would be Jay Wright. That's who I want as the Sixers coach. If we can entice him to come out of semi-retirement. I know Chalky's shaking his head because he knows.
Is he shaking his head or is he shaking something else when you said Jay Wright? I can't tell where his hands are right now.
Yeah, but I think he would be perfect fit. Obviously, given his status here in the city. But Do I think
Are
it's
we
going to
sure
happen?
Jay Wright
No,
could
I mean,
coach a professional team?
right.
I would like
I-
to give him a shot at it. I would like to give him a shot at
Would
it.
you?
A
Because
shot's
guess
gonna
what?
eat up Embiid's prime
And,
now, like
and
the rest
Embiid's
of his
career
years.
if he can't. So
Yeah, but okay, so we have to regurgitate these coaches that all lost their jobs for the same reason. So we
No,
got
one
Monty
won a
Williams or
championship.
Nurse. I know he won. So did
Yeah, but-
Budenholzer. He won a
But there's a
championship. Do you want
difference.
him?
He's
There's a difference
No, I
between
don't.
like regurgitating coaches like Doc, guys
Yeah.
like that, than regurgitating guys like Nurse or even Booz, whatever, if you want to say, because they were like they coached for one team and like did very well, and they hit their peak, which happens you go through any franchise, like Andy Reid, for instance, with the Eagles. At a certain point that they wear out the welcome. And basketball, it's a lot shorter too than football at times. All right, so Jay Wright, Chalky, who do you want?
I just don't. I don't think Jay Wright's coming back anywhere, and I don't know if I'd want him here because I don't think he'll get this team to win, and that would just tarnish his Hall of Fame legacy.
That's a reason. Why.
It's. Who I want is going to be based on who's the team, but I'm going to say Monty Williams would be probably my one. With Nurse just behind him. I don't have any interest in Budenholzer. I don't have any interest in Frank Vogel. And a couple other names. Cassell, I don't see as feasible because now they're leaking that.
It doesn't have to be a name that's been floated around. If there's something.
Well, but the thing is,
you
I know we're talking about realistic, who will it be, but there was a couple reports saying that that's their list and that it's probably not going to change. It could be. Yeah, there was a interesting name mentioned. One of the assistant coaches on I forget. Spo's assistant. He's been like 10 years. Look, you could argue Spo is the best coach in the league right now. So somebody that's been under that tree for a while. If you're going to take somebody that doesn't have a name brand, give him a shot. But the only one that's been talked about that hasn't been a head coach is Cassell. And the leak that today is that Sixers staff is pointing the finger at Harden for Doc getting fired. So it might not be Cassell doing that, but somebody on the staff is. So who knows?
The Heat staff is Chris Quinn, Malik Allen, and Caron Butler.
Quinn. I think it's Quinn.
Yeah, and I don't. You guys could probably. I need a guy that's going to motivate Embiid. I don't need an X and O as much, so I don't know who.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that Nurse? Could be, right? He was a motivator. Phil Jackson, is he still wants a coach?
Hubie Brown, I don't know.
I need a guy like that.
The other thing with Williams is he was on the staff before, so I think some of the Embiid would I guess they got along, but he also did not have a good relationship with Ayton in Phoenix apparently towards the end, which might not be his fault, but.
But my concern is it seemed like it sounded like Embiid had a great relationship with Doc, and Doc did motivate him to become MVP in the regular season, but we didn't get it out of him in the playoffs. So can he be motivated? Maybe.
I think that's gonna play a part in who they do pick, who we haven't talked about yet, but we'll get there.
How about a center that's ex center
or
that's
as an
a coach?
assistant coach, exactly.
Patrick Ewing
I was
or
going to say
something like
Patrick Ewing as an
About
assistant
Juwan
coach.
Howard.
He's the coach of Michigan. He's not going to
Yeah,
win Michigan.
why not?
He's not.
He might get fired
Money-
this year, but
Money
as
talks.
a head coach, he's not going to be an assistant coach.
I would say, Tim Duncan is an assistant coach right now, in San Antonio, I believe, right? Patrick Ewing, like you mentioned, somebody that could maybe teach him how to play center a little better. The guy's obviously got all the talent in the
it's funny
world.
you say that because, by this point in his career, close to at least Ewing had gotten to a conference finals and an NBA finals, but he was one of the comps I was thinking of, like that guy that just never got over the top despite having a ton of talent, as opposed to
it's just
Olajuwon
hard.
who won a couple. But.
It's just hard in this league that you're the MVP or the best player, and fine, you don't win a championship, but you can't get out of the second round. If you're that good, you should be able to get a band of nobodies out of the second round at some point. Not every
But
year.
Ewing, let me go back to Ewing. Ewing ran into Michael Jordan every year, and Olajuwon probably wouldn't have won a championship if Jordan didn't retire.
That era
right.
that era is hard to argue
Right.
when you stack them against guys.
That Knicks Rocket series, there was good players on the teams, but neither of those teams really hold up over time. Olajuwon and Ewing are all stars, but you try to put one of those teams now, they'd be second round teams at best in the league nowadays.
All right, so Jason, who do you think they're going to get? What's your honest thought? process.
I mean, my honest thought is, and I'll go back to, it's not going to be Vogel, but I won't mind him getting Vogel. I mean, Vogel, handled that whole Lakers situation and won a championship, right? I mean, he had a lot of personalities on that team and all, and he's a Wild Crest guy. I mean, gotta like that. But who do I think they're going to get? I think it's either going to be Monty Williams or Cassell, unfortunately. I don't want either of them. So.
How about you, Meeker?
Yeah, I think they might look at Cassell first, since he's been here. And if not, then it's going to be Monty Williams as well.
Chalky.
Based on the expectation that I think they're going to do everything to keep Harden, and based on what Maury said yesterday, I think it's D'Antoni.
Yeah, I would,
he was Embiid. Not to interrupt you. He was Embiid's. Embiid had given the okay for D'Antoni before Doc got fired and became in the conversation a couple years ago. And that was before Maury got here. But what threw me on the press conference yesterday was he was talking about how much they want to keep improving Maxey, and D'Antoni might be that guy. And Harden's talking about he wants a coach that will let him do his thing, and it just seems too obvious, I guess. So maybe it won't be, but I could see them bringing in D'Antoni and saying, make Maxey, we'll run an offense, make Maxey that much better. Maybe Harden willingly takes a step back and plays that Chris Paul role on that 2018 Rockets team that almost went to the finals, and do something different with Embiid. But I really, if they don't keep Harden, that changes everything. But if Harden's back, I think it's D'Antoni.
Yeah, and like Chalk said, I do think that it may starting to be the too obvious of an answer, but I would pretty much agree with everything you just said. That if Harden stays, I think it's D'Antoni. If Harden doesn't, I don't think it's Cassell. I don't. Morey doesn't seem like a guy that's like going to just promote within. He's going to be one that's going to go out and make this splash or get this big name. So I'm kind of just saying it's not Cassell. After that, I don't know. I don't think it's Nurse. I don't think it's Husen doesn't. So. Yeah, Monty's probably likely as well. I think that's a strong.
And the thing we're saying here, I mean, these guys are interviewing for other jobs too, so it may not be the Sixers' call on who ends up here. Because Williams is already going to interview, I think, with Milwaukee and whatever. But
yeah, and do people want this job? Is it still a sought after job? I mean, Philadelphia.
I think one of that six will have to want it, but
I think somebody wants it. I mean, say what you want about Embiid, but he's one of the top 3 or 5 players in the league, and one of these guys might want to come in and correct him and make him say we can mold him into a champion. You know what I mean? Like, it's a challenge.
Yeah, plus like these guys, one, they're going to make a ton of money, but if you could be the guy that comes in here and changes Embiid and wins a championship, I mean, you're right. You have a legacy now. Yeah, so absolutely. Definitely a possibility.
It's just crazy that you have the 2019, 2020, and 2021 championship coaches on the market right now, and Kerr actually doesn't have a contract, so back even further. And then the top records from the last 3 years were Budenholzer, Williams, and Doc, and they're all fired. So there's only one championship in that group, but that was a half Kevin Durant shoe size away from getting knocked out in the second round that year too.
Look, we said the league has changed. I mean, the way coaches are in this league has changed as well. The players rule the league. If they don't like the coach and they're the star player, that coach is gone. 2, you got guys like Steve Nash that has no experience getting hired. You got J.J. Redick's name being floated around, a possible hiring job. It's not like the old days where you go through the ranks, you coach college, you're assistant coach, you work your way up. I mean,
yeah, I think too. If you get a finals matchup this year of Missoula against Ham, so you got guys that were assistant coaches for more than. I mean, Missoula's young, but those aren't big name guys, and they ended up one way or another getting 2 of the biggest jobs in the league. So teams might start looking that way too, because they tend to follow trends a lot. Not that the Sixers are going to go that route, but that could start a new trend when you get these assistants that are winning.
A lot of these players just want coaches that are going to let them do what they want to do and not.
Oh, sure. That's what Harden wants. He basically said it, and not that Doc was telling him he couldn't do what he wanted to do, but he was trying to put him in a way that he has to sacrifice, quote unquote. And
well, speaking of Boston, how about giving Udoka a shot?
He's already got hired by Houston.
Oh, really? When did that
Yep.
happen?
A couple weeks ago.
Did it? I didn't know that. Well, stand corrected.
Yeah,
He would have been
You're-
he would have been a good play if that was if he
You're
didn't
stuck on
take that job before everyone got fired.
Yeah.
You're stuck on episode 47 of Broad.
That's
all
true.
right, so
Meeker's the Pony Express with the information. As you've
he'll
seen,
send us that text in 3
like
days.
3 days later.
All right,
Like he's
so
talking about a trade.
So let's move on now. Let's talk about roster, right? So when we talk about roster,
Yes, I want to talk about
to Jason's point, if you say get rid of Embiid, well, I need to know if what you're getting rid of him for, like next steps. Just getting rid of him and saying that's Daryl Morey's job, not my job. No, if you're gonna make those claims, and you got to come back with something, and it's got to be better than. Oh wait, before I'll be remiss. Before I move on, we did not talk about Dawn Staley possibly as a coach.
Right.
What do we think about Dawn Staley? I know, Meeker, do you think it's a possibility?
No,
Jason?
I do not.
I do think it's a possibility.
Yeah, I know some people on this panel were saying no chance. I mean, the Sixers are progressives. I mean, you saw what they did in the
I think
announcing
it's
crew. So
absolutely
I
a
would not say
possibility.
it's no chance. I think it's unlikely, but I don't think there's no chance.
I'm not going to say 0.0 anymore, but if the as we get into roster construction, this is a team that's still going to make a press to try to win a championship. You're not bringing Dawn Staley in. That's a rebuild or an already made championship team. That would be a great story. You're not bringing her in this situation.
Okay. We don't want to put no tickets on.
Yeah, how about we
Oh, if they hire Dawn Staley, all the children in Philadelphia can have my tickets next season. That's not a knock on her. It's just I don't think it's going to work out in this situation. So yes, I can donate my tickets to whomever wants them.
All right. Mark it down to 30. Where are we at? The 33 mark of episode 55.
31.
All right. So roster. So Jason, what do you want the Sixers to do? What do
I
want
want them to do? Let me tell you guys something. I'm not as convinced that Harden is coming back. So I'm not convinced that Daryl Morey is going to tie his whole legacy and career and everything else on the back of a 34-year-old or however old he is, 33-year-old broken down guy who obviously is doing something that's not making him play to his potential in half of the game player. I don't think it's a slam dunk that Harden's coming back, and I know whatever Morey said during that press conference yesterday, he had to say it. And I don't know if Harden wants to come back. I just don't see it. I want them, and you guys might think I'm crazy, and Chalky mentioned this name a couple of minutes ago. I would like to see them do a sign and trade Harden to Phoenix and get Chris Paul back. All right? Now, Chris Paul's old also, but you don't want to lose that contract slot, if you just let Harden walk. So you're going to have to try to get something back for him. I know what Harden's saying about, he wants to go off on his own and run his own offense. Durant loves Harden, and Harden likes playing with Durant. So I think Durant would want Harden on that team, and I think Harden would want to go to that team. And Chris Paul is obviously not working out there. Chris Paul is more of a prototypical point guard. I don't think he dogs it like Harden does 50% of the time. And if you look at the games played last year, he played the same amount of games as Harden. So if you're going to say, well, Chris Paul gets hurt all the time, well, Harden only played 58 games last year.
No, I guess the concern with Paul is he didn't finish this season, right? He was on the bench when the playoffs ended this season.
Yeah, I mean, he got hurt.
Been
then.
other seasons where he's finished on the bench during the playoffs as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, is it a perfect scenario? No, but there's not a perfect scenario out there because I'm not signing Harden to a max contract. That would be the end of the era for me because I think that you want to end Embiid's window, that's doing it. So I want them to get rid of Harden, and I would like to see them bring Chris Paul in.
All right, Chalky.
I had a similar thought, just not in the exact same setup. The sign trade gets complicated, so you got to assume Phoenix wants Harden, or that he wants to go there. I wasn't 100% convinced Harden would be back either, especially if they would have got the number 1 pick, which they didn't. But if you believe in what he says, where he's like he wants to contribute and he wants to win, it's not going to be Houston, so that could be leverage. But if Harden walked, I was trying to come up with some sort of package where you could swing Tobias and something else for Paul if Phoenix wanted to move off Paul. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do Tobias and Maxey, which might be what they need, and that wouldn't be worth it. But swapping out Harris and something else, it's just so tough because they don't have draft picks to trade anymore. So, I think Harden is likely back. I think Morey will make that commitment because I don't think he'll have enough time to get something better
not to
in
cut
the
you
next
off,
2 years.
But maybe I misheard. What is it you want to do?
I would say run it back with Harden and see if you can move Harris for a better complementary piece. Because even if you lose Harden's salary, I could say I think like free agents, Chris Middleton and Jeremy Grant would be better fits on the team maybe, but you're not going to be able to swap that salary out. So they're pretty much handcuffed.
You're only getting, if you lose Harden, you get a mid-level, $12 million guy or something like that. So
yeah, I mean, if you could move Harris for one of those guys, I'd say great, but it's not quite going to work out like that because they're free agents.
Let me ask you this question, and I don't know if I would do this, and you guys know I do not like Tobias Harris. Would you trade him for Bradley Beal? Because now Harris is expiring.
Washington would never do that, though.
Yeah.
I don't
Why
think.
not? They don't want. They want to get out of that Beal. That Beal's getting.
But you could get.
I
I think you could get much better than Tobias Harris if you're Washington, whether that's picks or something else. Like, sure, I would do it from the Sixers' perspective, and you let Harden walk, and your guards are Maxey and Beal. But
that's a bad contract Beal's got,
yeah,
and he does not play defense. I don't know. I think Washington would do it in a second because now they got Harris, which they just want to get out of Beal's contract.
I get that, but I think you can get much better back for Harris than for Beal than just Harris. You can get a player comparable and picks, and the Sixers don't have it. So what do I want to do? Keep Harden and move Harris for 2 lesser players that might fit better and give you a little better depth, I guess would be my answer.
All right, Meeker, what do you want the Sixers to do?
I don't want to run it back. I certainly want to get a little younger on this team, and if they let Harden walk, or if he decides to walk, whatever he's going to decide to do, and D'Antoni is not the coach, maybe that makes his decision a little easier. I'd like to move Maxey to the point, and I would like to sign a guy like either LeVert or Gary Trent. Those are 2 free agents that are on the market. Why are you shaking your head?
Because
you don't like
Maxey is not a true point guard. And
I think he can play the point.
45 games.
Yeah, I was about to say, do you really think that's a better team than you're fielding right now?
Go ahead.
I do, because they're old, and we already saw what the results of that is, and I don't need to see it again. So I think, well, if you don't want Maxey to run the point, then you can go and try and get D'Angelo Russell if you want. He's a free agent. How about that?
No.
All right.
You don't like that?
I just think
Really?
with the top level free agents, fitting him with the cap is going to
No, he
be
doesn't.
nearly
He does not
impossible.
He stinks.
Not if you if you're going to trade we're also trading Harris, right, for something. Are you going to bring him back too?
This is your scenario of what you want.
No, go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
You're building a 40-win team. Go ahead. I'll let you build it. Go ahead.
What makes you during the time that Harden was hurt, did Maxey run the point? For the most part, he did. So tell me why you think they're a 40-win team.
Maxey doesn't distribute and create
point
shots
guard.
for anybody.
He's 22 years old. He's been in the league for 3 years. You don't think he can be a point guard? He's a liability as a shooting guard on defense anyway. So why isn't he better running the point?
Because
with
then
the ball in his
now
hands?
you're taking away his scoring
Not
ability.
necessarily. Why
yes,
are
you
we
are.
taking away his scoring ability?
Because
Most
now
of
he's
the
gotta
point
worry
guards in
about
this
running,
league score.
Now he's got to worry about running the offense and distributing the ball. It's bad.
Well,
He's not a
you're
point
saying
guard.
he can't. I'm not sure that he can't. And I think if you are surrounding him with good talent on offense and he still hasn't beat at center, I don't think that you're right about that. Honestly.
Okay, Meeker.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say.
you want to run it back with Harden.
I do
Chalky
not
does.
want.
Chalky
I
does.
don't want Harden.
Chalky
at
does. So
all.
we know what the result of that is, and you want to go sign a 40-year-old point guard. So how
He's
are they
not
getting
40,
better?
He's 38.
whatever. He's old. He's
Whatever.
never
First
finishes
of all,
the season.
I'm
It's
leaning
just-
towards Jason's scenario as well because you're not. What's the difference if he's 38? You only got a couple years left on
Harden's
with it.
33 going on for 39.
you
and
only
that's
got a
why-
few years.
Because these guys can't finish seasons. Because these guys miss a lot of games. That's why. Because
but I'd rather
that's
take
what
a
you're.
chance
That's
with a
what you
guy
are
not-
when you're 38 years old.
I'd rather have a
pig.
yeah. I'd rather have a chance of
How's he playing?
not
in
finishing a
LA?
season than finishing as the seventh
great.
seed and being in a playing game.
I mean, that's partially my logic between saying keep Harden because I'm looking at a 2 or 3 year window tops with Embiid at this point, and I don't know
Of course.
what. So what's realistic? So look, for the vast majority of the season, the Sixers were the number 1 offense in the league. Now, Harden did not play that way. Harden had very, very good regular season. Didn't play that way in the playoffs. Why? Who knows?
You gotta stop thinking regular
but-
season and they're two different
No,
animals.
there
That's the
are.
problem.
There are. But that Brooklyn team wasn't defending him all that great, and he played garbage for 3 of the 4 games. So whether it was his Achilles or drinking too much or whatever, you gotta have somebody that can hopefully get that out of him and make Maxey a little better. I think that's their best chance because I don't think a Chris Paul trade is realistic. I would do it.
You
But
just badmouth Harden in 3 of the 4 games of Brooklyn, but you want to sign. You want him to run it
If
back.
you guys think Harden picked
if you're
it up-
asking me the best chance, like a realistic chance, like we're not putting something in the trade machine here on ESPN, like their best chance to win the next couple years is to bring Harden back and hope you get a coach that can get more out of him than Doc got. I think that's the only realistic chance, and I don't think it's a likely chance.
realistic.
I don't think it's realistic that they win the championship, but if you want a contender, I don't think they can rebuild this team in the next year, certainly. You'll have cap space after 24, but now you've just wasted another year of Embiid's prime.
With Jason's scenario, do you not think obtaining Chris Paul is possible? Is that why you?
I think Harden for Paul is a deal I would do. I don't think it's got very much of a chance of being realistic.
the problem is
I would gladly be wrong, but I think he would be a much better fit.
if you think Harden is a pig every other game now when he's playing for a contract, once he gets a max contract, good luck. That's all I
Yeah,
have to say.
and if things don't go
Good
well,
luck.
we've
That's
seen with
exactly
Harden,
the reason why I don't want to run it back. Just what you just said.
But again, let me just make clear. I don't think this is a great option or a championship option. I think it's the best of a lot of bad realistic options.
So we don't have very good realistic options.
No, I don't think
It's
I
a
don't
bad-
think you
it's a
do.
bad spot. I
I don't
you're
want to
right
say
about that.
I don't want to say the process is dead, but it's damn close.
the process died 5 years
Well,
ago.
Ben Simmons.
Ben
is-
Simmons
Ben-
killed
I mean,
the process.
but this window.
Ben Simmons
Correct.
putting us in this situation because
Ah,
now they
you're
have to
absolutely
trade
right.
for Harden. Because
Yeah.
what else you get?
Yeah,
for Ben
no,
Simmons?
it's Simmons.
Morey's not going to trade Embiid because he'll be fired before the team gets good again. Like we're talking about, we're going to
You
trade
ain't-
Embiid for it.
you
But
ain't
if you were going to
getting
tear it
value
down,
from Embiid.
that's what you do. But he's not going to do that, and you won't get because you won't get the value, and he'll be gone in 2 years tops.
Right.
No, I don't tear. Nobody's saying tear. I just think finding a Harden replacement is a better option than bringing Harden back.
I just don't think there's going to be a
Gotta
better
get
option than a better replacement option.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to say what trades are realistic and what trades aren't realistic. Now, I mean, Melton for Durant, not realistic.
Yeah.
We get it. But I mean, when you're talking like the Harden and Paul, the way Jason lays it out, I mean, I think that's very realistic.
It's just
I mean-
that Durant and Harden like each other.
Yeah,
Right?
that new owner there is a wild card. He obviously wants to make a splash, so I will say it's not impossible. I don't think it's likely, but it's not impossible, and I think that would be good for the Sixers, and maybe the Suns
I mean,
see it as a
and
good
Harden.
thing.
I mean, if you take what Harden said, which we don't know, is, he wants to play. He wants to run his offense, whatever, and play for a contender. Well, then anybody that the only way he could do that is through a sign and trade. So that only benefits the Sixers now. So
But
if you
he's
take
going to be the third option on that team. He's going to be behind Booker. He's going to be behind Durant. Is he going to be okay with that? Because he's kind of hinting that he doesn't like having to defer to Embiid.
I don't think that was a problem. I think he wants to go out and party and show up for games when he wants. And
No, but when he says
play
run the offense the way he wants, what is he talking about? To me, it means being the focus or taking more shots than he was because he was deferring or sacrificing. Like he's going to do, unless he just
no,
lying
I think
about
he
that.
wants to
I
take
think
less
that's-
shots. I think he wants to be more passive.
It's possible.
I mean,
because
then
really-
Phoenix would fit.
Right. I think Doc was the one that kept saying, and Embiid was the one that kept saying, aggressive
We want
James.
you
We
to
need
shoot
an
more."
aggressive
Yeah,
James.
that's-
Right.
that's-
So I think he wants to not shoot. I think he wants to
Possible.
just be that style and defer. So I mean that's hard to say, right?
The
How
games
can
that he
we say
played,
what's-
yeah, the games that he didn't feel like he had to score and he was distributing, he played better.
And
Unless you're scoring
he's
40
probably
points.
less tired after those games when he can just play his style and pass, and then he can go out
Motivation or
there and
whatever.
put his money.
I would take Jason's option over mine if it was realistic. I just don't
that's-
have a faith it's a likely option.
But
So what do you think
that's-
the Sixers are going to do?
I think they're going to run it. I think they're going to run it back and try to move Harris for something.
Yeah, and that's 100% could possible. That could definitely be the Morey and Harden connection. We don't know how deep that really does run.
I mean, Morey has found ways to make this team a little bit better each year since he got here. And I was like, okay, he got here. Oh, they got the Albatross, Horford, Richardson contracts were bad. He made that team better by getting Green and Curry. Okay, then Niang was good, and obviously the Simmons trade. And he made the team better this year, but they still didn't get past the second round. Maybe an incremental move gets the team over that hump, but I don't think there's a big splash he can make other than maybe what Jason was saying. So if you get Harris or somebody that maybe isn't as talented overall, but it could be more consistent, along with a better rotational player in the seventh position coming off the bench. It could make your team. It could make your team well. Because look, if Harris hits 3 shots in Game 6, they might win, and they're in the conference finals.
Yeah, I think he would rather keep Harden and move Harris for something.
Oh, no doubt.
In the Morey scenario.
I would take Harrison Barnes for Harris. I say it all the time. I think he'd be a perfect fit.
I don't know. The something that you're going to get isn't going to be a whole lot of something. It's not going to be a big difference maker, I don't think.
No,
It might be a better fit.
you're probably going to get
But-
another bad contract.
What you're going to do is, like Tommy
Yeah.
said, you're going to get a team that wants to get rid of a bad contract and
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
okay, Harris
Right.
is coming off. We don't care if we stink this year because
Right.
now we're going to lose a max contract off of our roster.
At the only other team I was thinking of, and I think I mentioned him last year at Harris, is like Chicago's a little bit of a mess. They got guys that are hurt in and out of the lineup. They got some big contracts. They need a power forward. I don't know if there's something that they can do there, but again, like you can't give Harris in 2 first rounds to get a good player because you don't
Well,
have those picks.
Would you take DeRozan back for him?
Yeah, but that would assume I don't think you can play him with the 3 guards, so you'd assume Harden's walking like in that case, I guess. So
What is his contract status? How many years does he have left on his contract? Is that even
DeMar
a
DeRozan?
possibility? Yeah.
two-ish?
Not sure.
I don't think he would be the guy that they would move. I would think
I mean,
Levine might be a more likely option.
It's
but.
definitely going to be things like dependent on what Harden does is going to be this stuff.
Yeah.
If you can move Harris. Obviously there's a lot of moving pieces here. I mean, at least on this panel, nobody said you're getting rid of Embiid. I mean, at least.
No, that's.
at least
I mean,
we have-
it's not.
I
that
could see
possible.
if Harden walks and it's not a signed trade, I could see Morey trying to get a little desperate and putting Maxey and Harris in a package to try to get like a Dame, maybe. I don't know.
I was
could see
thinking
Maxey
Max,
traded.
and I
could
thought
see-
that's why he possibly built Maxey up in his press
Yeah.
conference, not to actually build him up on our team, but to in a trade. And I definitely think that's a possibility.
Would you guys
Yeah.
trade Maxey and Harris for Dame Lillard?
Yes.
Of course. No
I mean,
doubt.
Dame Lillard's 30.
Are they gonna
what
do
is he,
that?
30 something.
Probably
Again, I don't
not.
care about.
If Dame
age.
Lillard says he wants to get traded, they're going to do it.
I don't think that's enough. I think you got to go around the league and see
Yeah,
what
but
you're going to get.
what is enough? Just draft picks? I mean, what are they? Maybe.
Well,
But
it's
again,
hard. It's hard for a team with a good draft pick to trade for him because they're not ready for a guy like that. They're not championship ready. Does
No.
he make a team that was like a lottery team into a championship championship team? No. I mean, he's a great player. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think you're going to have that kind of partner. The better partner is the team that's more ready for him to come and play
Well, let me
and
ask
make
you
him a
this.
championship team.
You let Harden walk, even though you're going to lose that contract slot, and then you make that trade that I said, and I don't know what else you got to include, but Maxey and Harris, and you have Lillard and Embiid, and now you bring in a Harrison Barnes, who's now a free agent after this year. What does that lineup look like?
Yeah,
You
I mean,
know?
I guess you got to ask yourself, like you've seen, it almost takes 3 guys, right? Or 2 definitely elite players, and then a third
The
guy.
reason I
So
always
is
say
Lillard,
Barnes-
Embiid, and Barnes the next?
The reason I always
enough?
say Barnes is he's been a good role player on Golden State that won championships. You know what I mean? He plays. He's a 3-and-D guy. He's a great defender. He could hit a shot when
Right,
you
but
need it.
isn't he
Like,
more like the 4th guy?
He's a 4th guy on a championship team.
So now he's
That's the
your
problem.
3rd guy.
Well, I mean,
Complimentary piece.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if now you could go and get a Bogdanovich or something like that to be like your third,
Yeah.
your third
Yeah.
shooter
Yeah,
somewhere
you
or
can
something.
use 2 4s to become a 3, right? I mean, also.
I mean, if you have two really great players playing at top level, you can get by. Like, okay, so like game 4, Harden and Embiid played great together and they carried the team. And if Embiid got any support in game 3, they probably win that game and then end up winning the series. But you get if you do that trade, you got Lillard and Embiid, you still have Tucker, you got to fill those other 2 spots. I would like Barnes, but I don't know if the salary would end up working out with that. You could certainly bring in a Seth Curry, who's going to have his problems, but he could play shooting guard, obviously. And then, I don't know how much they like this kid Springer. It'd be tough to put him in the lineup as a small forward starter, but I don't know who else. There's guys out there. Oh yeah, they would be a good fit, but they're hamstrung with the cap, so I don't know who they could realistically sign as that extra piece.
But you look at Phoenix and what they did, and they're 2 of the best players in the league playing together. But there's no, they're not. They're playing a team that's been together in Denver for however many years, and you see what happens. Like just because you're putting 2 of the best players in the court together doesn't necessarily mean it's going to turn out the way you think.
No, of course not.
They only had 15 games to get ready. I mean,
You do
Durant
it-
missed how many?
You make
of
a
the
trade
games?
in July, then now you have the whole season to gel. If
Right,
you make a
that's-
trade like the Sixers brought in Harden in February, the Durant trade was whenever it was. That's not enough time.
Right, correct. And that's how Phoenix looked. I mean, there was times where Durant went on didn't touch the ball, would go on possessions, and he looked like PJ Tucker just standing in the
Plus,
corner.
they didn't have enough depth. Like,
But you knew
offensive
like they
defense,
weren't
no
really
depth.
familiar with
So
each other.
I'll give you one more name. I think it would have to be a sign trade because I don't think they could work it under the cap, certainly. And I don't know if Hard would want to go there. Would you do a sign and trade with Dallas for Kyrie?
I would.
Man.
I think talent-wise, he's the best fit available, but
Absolutely.
he has quit on 3 teams and maybe 4 now.
Yeah,
and
you're
I don't.
desperate, though. You're
that's-
you're throwing Hail Marys at this
It's the
point.
ultimate desperate, but
they're already
Dallas
desperate.
threw a whole Mary and that blew up in their face.
That was mid-season.
I
and
think
that-
I'd do it.
I would
from a fit, if you could just do Harden for him, I would absolutely
I would
do
do
it.
I would
but
do it.
I don't think it ends pretty. But
I mean, the one thing I'll say is
Probably
that
not.
he's a goofy dude as well. I mean, maybe
I'd rather
maybe-
take that chance,
maybe
chalky,
we'll gel.
than run it back. How about that?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I,
would
I
absolutely
mean, do I think it's going to work? I don't know. But I mean, I'd rather do that.
To me, we already know this isn't working.
And I mean, I could see Cuban being desperate, like he's worried about losing Luka. Like, okay, so like he doesn't want Kyrie. Let's just say now in this scenario, and Harden goes back to Texas, and he's got a couple good players there. Obviously, Luka's a top 5 maybe player in the league. Maybe he would want to do that. I don't know, but
I do remember one person on this pod that was big on Dallas after they got Kyrie.
I was. That was me. They listen. I was big against Phoenix. If you
Yes,
remember.
you were.
yeah.
So
Yes, you were.
gotta give me that credit too.
So, all right. I mean, 55 minutes in, not leaving much time here for the Preakness talk, but I think it was all very good Sixers conversation that we had. Very good conversation. So I think we're gonna have to end it here, Meeker. I don't think you're staying on for the Preakness. We'll run it. We'll run a quick through for you guys. Preakness is not like the Derby, so we should be able to knock this out pretty quickly, and we'll put together a little pick 4 at the very end for the folks. Meeker, thank you for celebrating our anniversary with us.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
All right,
Good luck.
take care.
Good luck with your team.
I heard that.
He's back.
All right, let's move on. Like I said, we're going to cover the Black Eyed Susan, which is tomorrow. The female version of the Preakness. Then we're going to jump into the late pick 4 that leads into the Preakness. So let's get into it. We are going to move quickly here with not too much time left. Race 13 tomorrow, slated for 5:45. We're going a mile and 1/8. Black Eyed Susan. It's listed as a grade 2. Look, Jason, I'll let you take this softball.
Yeah.
Who do you got?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the 9 phase is most likely the best 3-year-old filly, and I'm thinking probably would have won the Oaks if she was allowed to enter. So, I mean, it's a single. I like the 7, and now I can't read names now.
Comparative.
Yeah, I thought the 7th comparative could get second. Saez has been aggressive with her the last 2 races, so maybe she could jump up and get in the second. And I'm also going to try the 10 Tax, who apparently has been working pretty well. Throw her second or third. She was an AE in the Oaks, so she was even training well going into that. So, and then I'll throw in the one Sacred Wish. She's probably not a bad filly. So, but nobody's beating Phaser. I mean, they're just to fill out the trifecta, those horses.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, if nobody's beating FaZe, I think it's a stone cold single. Obviously, Sacred Wish, you can't not use. Went wide in the Gulfstream race. The horse that beat her got first jump on her, and that not that she was losing ground, but she got the first jump, and that was kind of all she wrote. Had a tougher of the two trips, so really hard not to use. I like Jason's Taxed as well. I wasn't as big on comparative, but I do like Taxed to round it out. And then I do think Miracle has a shot again.
No,
Irad's going to be.
she doesn't.
Oh, she's scratched.
She's not gonna have any shot.
All right, so she doesn't have a shot. So yeah, I'm just going. I guess I'm similar to Jason. No, nothing clever there. Chalky, finish this off.
Yeah, I mean, Fies is the horse. Phase or whatever. I mean, the fact that Baffert didn't transfer her to Yak team to give her a shot to run in the Oaks and he still ran in Santa Anita says to me that he just was pointing to this race. I will mess around with the 1 and the 4 in doubles to the Preakness. But yeah, 9.
The 4
is Merlaza from Brad Cox.
Okay. So 3. All right, let's move on to Saturday. Race 10 kicks off the pick 4, if I am not mistaken. It's a doozy as well. It's slated for 4:12 Eastern time. It's a 5 furlong turf sprint, not graded, $100,000 race. And you're getting, which looks like a $100,000 race type of horses. Chalky, do you want to kick us off here?
Sure. So I'm going to try to get a price in this. A lot of speed up front, so trying to find some horses in the middle there. So the three main horses will be 5, Smokin' Jay. Ran second in this race last year. The 6, That's Right. And who won the Turf Monster at Parks, grade 3 last year. And the 10, no, I'm sorry, Romans, he stinks. He can't win a graded race. The 13, Beer Can Man. The Motto. Now, the thing I will say about this is there's a lot of rumors out there that the Motto is going to get in trouble because one of his horses came back hot that ran on Derby Day. Nothing's out there yet, so take that for what it's worth, which may be nothing. So 5, 6, 13, and of the favorites, I would probably include the 1 in a pick 4, but I'm going to try to use those 5, 6, 13 to beat most of the favorites.
All right, Jason.
I am going too deep here, and my top choice is going to be the 3, Artemis City Limits. He's getting IRAD, and I do not throw out horses that get IRAD on turf, especially turf sprints. He's just been running in better races than these horses. I just think he's better than them. But I'm also going to use Chalky's 5, Smokin' Jay. He's going to get some pace to close into, so if anybody's going to close and win, he would be the other one. So 3 and 5 for me.
Yeah, I was 6 deep here. Did not have the 5 or the 6. I look for more of the tactical style horses. So I mean, you look at some of these horses that run on the lead, like the 1, the 3. I mean, they don't need the lead. They can run off and win. So I had the 1, Nothing Better, Nothing Clever there. The 3, Artemis. I had the 7, 4, Hope, who is getting Jose and could definitely run off. Maybe Irad sets the pace with his horse. Never know. The 8 is Grateful Bread. I always, in this type of race, I do like the local jocks in these 5 furlong sprints on Preakness Day. So the 1 has a local jock. The 8 had a local jock. Coppola, for many reasons, I'm going to use the name, respect a fellow Italian. Roman's Pig, of course, but he does, he did explode in that last race at Churchill. Maybe it was the Churchill surface. I don't know. And then the 13, Beer Can Man. D'Amato does ship and do well with his horses. This horse has ran outside of California a few times and has performed well. So I spread pretty deep there.
Wasn't Romans like 0 for 333 in stakes races?
Yeah, he does bad.
Yeah, he's 0 for 33 on the last 2 years or whatever it is now.
Is that graded stakes races? Because this ain't graded.
It just says stakes. Period.
So,
It'll include graded too. Yeah, it could be anything.
Right. So I mean, 0 for 33. I've seen a lot of those types of guys. I mean, he's getting Johnny V as well. So Johnny V doesn't ride for just the ride anymore. So, yeah. So that's where I'm at. I'm 6 deep. Seems like we are spread except for I guess Jason. I guess Chalky not more so me. All right, race 11 is the Maryland Sprint. Is a grade 3. Slated for 4:53 Eastern time. Jason.
Yeah, I'd see like a lot of speed on the outside. Like I think 3 horses could be kind of dueling it out on the outside. So I'm going to take a shot with a bomb on this race. And I'm going to try the 5, Willie Boy, because he can close. He's running a few races, in the past, so he's got some back class, some decent stakes races. Take a shot with him as my top choice, but I'm also going to use the 7, Nakatomi.
Well, he doesn't. Where does he? He doesn't really close.
Well, I mean, he sits off the pace. Not so much close, but I mean, he could sit off, basically. So, I'm using him. And then I'm going to use the 7 Nakatomi because he can close or sit off the pace. He had a bad trip in his last. So I'm 5 and 7 in that race.
Chalky.
Yeah, I'm going to use 1 pace horse and 1 off the pace horse and try to beat the favorites again here. So I have 5 Willie Boy, and then my pace horse is 10 Wonder Where Craig Is, local. So same angle kind of you were talking about there. It's Brittany Russell with Russell riding. I don't know if they're brother, sister, or related or whatever, but he's run. It's a local horse that's run some decent numbers. So I'm going to try to beat the top 2 choices in this one.
Yeah, this is for me. This is one that I think was it last year. There was a race had a ton of speed on, and it might have been was it when Chantel won this race. Had a ton of speed, and the horse that won just wired the field, fast pace, fast fractions, and wired the field. I don't know, Pimlico is just such a trash track. Yeah, so I can't throw out the speed. So I think 7, 8, and 10 I was looking at, which is probably the top 3 choices. I don't see Bombs winning this Maryland Sprint race. If I recall, a lot of it's been chalky over the years. With I think this might have been the race that the Asmussen horse has won a couple times, and I don't know. I just see it as pretty chalky. Nakatomi as the best horse, straight chaser with the best speed figure last out, and then Wonder Craig. I feels like that horse is coming back into form at the right time. 2 or 3 wins and another one a place at Pimlico. So 7, 8, 10 for myself. Race 12 is a mile. The James W. Murphy, so we don't even have a graded stakes prior to the Preakness. It's crazy. So I was. This is another race I kind of see chalk. I don't really see anybody outside of the 8 and the 9. So the 9 is obviously the classiest with the best speed figures. The 8, who ran in that same race, had just a horrific trip with Saez and Cox. And then if you want a little bit of a price, the 7, the two turf races for the 7 were both pretty good, much lower class. But again, you're not looking at monsters here. So 7, 8, 9 for me. Chalky?
Yeah, this is one where I'm going to try to keep it short and go with the chalk. So my single here is the 9 with Pratt and Motion. The other one would be the Ward horse, the 1 also the second choice, but I'm pretty much going to run everything through the 9 in this one.
And Jason.
Yeah, I'm way different from you guys here. I think this is a spread race to me. I mean, I don't know if those. I'm not crazy about those favorites. My top choice is going to be the 4, the top recruit. It seems shady that Maker's throwing him on turf in this race. He's getting Rosario. And Maker does some shady stuff, and I don't know. Just seems that horse is going to be a price, and I definitely want to try to use him and build some stuff around him. You have to use the 1. Of course, you have to use the 9 and the 8, and then the 3 also. I was going to throw in a Western Yarn. He has some speed. I forget what else. The other reason I just wanted the spread in this race basically, so just figured take a shot with him for a price. But the 4, I'm very interested in that 4. That seems like a shady move by Maker.
Yeah, layoff is a bit of a concern, for sure. But definitely. I see where you're going with that angle. But yeah, I mean, you're coming off of 7 month layoff. But again, these aren't monsters
Yeah,
in
they're
here,
not
so it's not going
killers.
to take a
Right.
lot.
Right.
All right, now race 13 is the Preakness, which is 7:01. So you're looking at an hour plus between the race 12 and race 13. 7:01 is just an outrageous time. I mean, that's pretty
That's
late.
crazy.
Yeah. All right, Jason, finish us off with the Preakness.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is very simply a two-horse race. I mean, in the past, almost all the Kentucky Derby winners have come back and run well in the Preakness. I guess they're fit and in form. And then this race, he's the only horse coming back from the Kentucky Derby. So, of course, the 3 Mage can win. But my top pick, I'm going to go with the 8 First Mission. He actually might be Cox's best 3-year-old. He's got a nice post. He's going to be out wide with Saez. So Saez could kind of put him where he wants. If there's not a lot of speed, he could put him up close to the pace, or he can make him sit off. I think he's going to sit off the 1, National Treasure, the Baffert horse. He's probably going to be the horse on the lead. So, the way I see it, I think, like I said, National Treasure will be on the lead. 8 sits off, 8 goes by down the stretch. Mage is coming flying late. Can he catch him? I'm hoping he can't, but I'm gonna use 8 on top over 3. I'm gonna try to build a trifecta, and I'm gonna try to use the 6 Reform to get in there for third for Shug. And then Red Route 1, I think you get in there. My strategy is to try to beat the brown horse for third and try to hit the trifecta, maybe the superfecta with, because I think it's going to be 8 over 3 in the exacta, and that's not going to pay that much. So that it'll be for me 8 over 3 over 6 over 5, something in that fashion.
Yeah, I think National Treasure probably can be thrown in there, but again, you're not really looking at prices
I'm just
at
trying
that
to get
point.
a price.
Yeah. I mean, what can I say? I totally agree. I mean, Maj could win, obviously, but I would be more interested in First Mission. Cox, Saez again. I think Arabian Lion runs in a race Saturday, early in the card Saturday, who took it to First Mission and looked like might even. The First Mission was like a little bit buried on the rail in that race, and horse kind of fought back and started to eke past. Was like a easy victory in the end, but was not like the easiest trip if you watch it inside of Arabian Lion. So First Mission has some major talent there, and Cox has had a ton of horses in the Derby, saved First Mission for the Preakness. Doesn't bring any of his other Derby horses back and runs First Mission. So I would be singled to First Mission as well. Mage is like just, on the field alone, seems impossible not to finish second or third. So nothing crazy. Red Route 1, another horse that loves to hit the board, doesn't ever win. National Treasure, like I said, I don't think the pace is going to be crazy fast, so that horse sets it easily, could hang for third or fourth. Nothing real clever. I agree. Blazing Sevens, I think will probably be overplayed because it's Brown, it's Ortiz. I just don't, I did like the horse on the Derby trail, and then just from based on the races, have not liked. So I have to agree with Jason.
Me, I read on dirt horses doesn't really move them up the way he moves up turf horses. I like it. If he's on like a strong dirt horse, yeah, fine.
And you don't see Irad like get third and get fourth because
he just kind of quits.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So I think you might see him try to get into the race early, and then the horse is done. He backs up and he's protecting himself, and so I would agree with that. And I do think that horse will be overplayed, so you might get a little value. Chalky, do you want to close us out?
I mean, First Mission is going to be my pick, and I really wanted to not really include Mage, but simply on the fact that the rest of the field stinks, it's hard not to. And if he doesn't break terrible, he may not need to be coming late, because I think if there's not certainly doesn't look like it'll be a huge pace on paper. If he breaks okay, I think they'll have him close to that. Like, I don't necessarily think that they want to have him run from 18th position, but his starts have kind of put him in that position. So I think they'll put him a little closer as long as he doesn't flub the or blow the brake.
But that messed up break could have been a blessing in disguise with the hot
yeah,
pace.
because right. But I think
Definitely.
you're not going to have that kind of hot pace here where you got to worry about it. So
Yeah, even if he doesn't break. I mean, like in not the Florida Derby, was it the Fountain Youth? He didn't break. They moved him into the race, and he made a nice move to be in contention and finished a decent fourth at that point. So yeah. It's. I mean, he's a good horse. I mean, there's nothing you can't.
he's really good
you
horse.
can't knock him. The trainer you can have questions about. So yeah, I think I don't know. Did you guys want to put together a pick four? We're kind of all over the place in our.
just one last thing. I almost kind of. I mean, he's not. I'm not going to be betting him that much, so I don't want him to win that way. But I almost kind of want him to win, so that way he takes a ton of money at Belmont and gets beat. But
I agree, and we're going to Belmont, so that'll be like
he has
a money-making opportunity.
No chance to win the Belmont.
I've heard a lot of people that think he's going to win the Triple Crown. I don't see it at all. But
hey, look.
I was shocked he got the distance of the Derby. I mean,
plus, it's going to be so many races in such few time for a horse that didn't have a real
Tappet Trice is probably the
foundation.
Belmont horse. It's Tappet, it's Pletcher, it's Derby, skipping the Preakness, now the Belmont. I mean, that's
he
like
might be overbet though, that horse, just because everybody's going to say.
But I mean, that's the horse that wins. That's the profile that wins the Derby. Or Two Phils, for that matter, if he does run back with the way Two Phils fractions were in the Derby. I think he's a major player, but I don't know what the plan is for.
Yeah, I want to say they're going to sit him till that Jim Dandy Haskell time, but I could be wrong.
It could be,
yeah, it's going to be, I don't know. I mean, could First Mission run back?
I don't know. What is the history? What's the history of the Preakness winner running back in the Belmont who didn't run?
I mean, I think you'll see. Well, I guess I mean, obviously there's news about Forte, from after the Derby. But I mean, if he's healthy, I could see. I could see.
He probably wins.
Rapoli wanting to run there. Angel of Empire would. I think Cox would run, assuming he's healthy.
I wouldn't like Angel. I would like Forte, but I wouldn't like Angel. I think Angel's more of a. I don't know if he runs the style that wins the Belmont. Not that Forte technically does, but I think Forte might wind up being.
The only thing I would say with Forte is Mo Donegal didn't necessarily have that style until the Belmont,
right.
and then
you're right. That's true.
And just grind it, which is the Forte style. So
yeah.
But we will talk about that. Let's not put a pick four. I mean, we were all over the place. This Belmont, Preakness car, like those races are stink. They like come on, a 5 furlong sprint. I mean, unless you got Ben's cat running, nobody had it. Really, it's not a race we're looking forward to here.
Who did Blue like? I didn't listen to Blue.
Blue loves Forte. You got to go back and listen.
I'm going to listen to it. Well, Forte is not running Saturday, unfortunately. I hope they let him know that.
He was going to win the Triple Crown. And,
okay.
He had Mage, and he
had Mage. Okay. He had
Mage.
First Strike too, right? Or he should.
That was a classic. That was a classic visit. So you should definitely listen to it.
Yeah, I'll tomorrow or Saturday I will check that out.
All right, well, let's wrap up the anniversary show, episode 55, Broad Street Hustle. Feel like we did a great show with the Sixers breakdown, so definitely tune in. Follow us on Twitter at Broad Street Hustle. Check us out on YouTube if you're not already, but please, if you are watching, leave a comment. I think we only had one comment last week, and it was on the thickness of Jason's nose.
Is that right?
It was one of our former pods.
Yeah.
It was one of our
biggest. The Hervé Villachet of.
He's too busy to join the pod, but he has enough time to leave comments. On the podcast underneath. But we do appreciate the podcast, and we hope you liked and subscribed. So thank you. Have a great night. Episode 55.